So my first lecture is solid waste management. So when you talk about environment, one of the important component in the environment is waste. Okay? And how you manage your waste in the environment. So that is something which is huge because waste, if it is hazardous or infectious, it can degrade the environment. So basically, like we people, they used to throw everything away. Whether you're throwing in a proper way or not, no one knows, right? So whatever, even when it comes to house, it's your household, you throw your food waste there. You throw your e-waste, like your battery, everything we are discarding at the same trash, garbage place. But is that a right way for you to throw, to discard your waste? So when you talk about waste, you can divide them based on their state of matters. You have solid waste management, you have also liquid waste management or water waste management. So for today's class, we'll be focusing on your solid waste management. So by end of this class, you must able to identify what are the major type of solid waste is there, how to manage it, what are the management methods that you have, and what is the 3R concepts. So can anyone tell me what is 3R? Oh, good. So, okay, everyone can tell me what is 3R. Are you guys really doing all this 3R, reduce, reuse, and recycle? Rethink, refuse, and regret. Regret of sometimes. Okay, honest answer. The rest? Okay, how well you're segregating your waste at home? How many of you are segregating your waste? Your plastic waste, your paper waste, your tins at home? I'm asking, I don't tell me that your mother is doing, your father is doing. I want you guys to do. Before Deepavali only, madam. Oh, before Deepavali. Then after Deepavali? Recycle paints and cans, miss. Okay, good, Natalia. Okay, so, okay, let's move forward. So, what is solid waste? So, if when you talk about solid waste, basically they are referred as non-liquid, non-soluble material that has been discarded by either homes or any industrial or any business office. Okay, so these are actually includes your everyday items like your food scraps, your papers, your plastics, your metals, as well as some industrial residues or construction debris, or you have any agriculture waste. So when you see solid waste, generally, they are divided into two. One is your municipal solid waste, another one is your industrial solid waste. So, your municipal solid waste is generally that comes from your home or office or any schools or shops. Like you have your food waste, major is your food waste, then you have your papers, bagging, everything. Then industrial solid waste, it refers to industrial like factories, agriculture, any mining operations. So they will have this chemical residues or any byproduct from manufacturing. So these are their industrial solid waste. So, and also you do have another category which called as hazardous waste. Like you have your batteries, any of your electronic parts which has heavy metals that are considered as hazardous waste. So first, when you want to treat or manage your waste, you must know what is your solid waste, where it comes from. Then only you can know how to treat it. Okay, so let's see in Malaysia. So when you talk about Malaysia, we are producing almost around 39 kilotons of solid waste, which is almost equivalent by average 1.17 kg per person. So it means that per person every day we are producing by average 1.17 kg of waste, solid waste. And this number of tons is actually increasing. It does not decrease, it is increasing. And out of the waste that we are producing, 30% of the waste are municipal waste, which is from your households. And where we are discarding all this waste, the only place that we are discarding the waste is your landfill. So basically, all the landfills that we are having, or whatever the municipal waste that comes from the household, factories, everything will be collected and it will go to your landfill. And do you know how many landfills that we have in Malaysia? Anyone? Ten per state, sir. You know. That's a lot. Okay, see, landfill is something, it's not just a dumping area actually. It's 165, 135. From where you guys are getting these lucky numbers? Okay, they are not just an open area and you just dump your waste there, your solid waste there. So landfill is actually, it's a constructed landfill. It has some kind of layering there, which we will see later. So, and for landfill, you need a big, large area. It has to be separated from households areas. So it has a lot of criteria. And especially like urban cities, you cannot be having landfills like how you say 10 per states. Because when you have a landfills, it smells bad. And it also like invites all these infections because it's a landfill. You just dump it, your waste there. So as Malaysia, we continue grow in economy and also populations. So our amount of waste is also increasing and it's expected to be increasing in future. So our major challenge here is how to dispose our waste in a sustainable way. Okay, so sustainable way means like whether you can convert your waste to recycling or whether you can convert them to be a compost or you can reduce the production of your waste. Okay. Okay. So basically this I have explained what is municipal solid waste, what is industrial solid waste, and also what is your hazardous waste here. So next, how you classify your solid waste, so which is very, very important when you are planning for, especially if you are planning for waste management, recycling, composting system. So as we know, like our major component of waste is organic waste, which is your food scrap or the papers, plastics. So generally, organic waste will make up 50% to 40 to 50% of your total waste. So it means composting could significantly reduce the landfill load. It means like, because when you do composting, you need carbon source and also nitrogen source. And organic waste has carbon source. So you can reduce the waste, like food scrap, it has carbon source. So you can reduce it by using composting. But one of the major issue here is plastic, the usage of plastic, because plastic are commonly used for packing. It's generally a single-use item, and there is a lack of recycling infrastructure for plastic. So that's what we are going to see plastic in more details. So if you see plastic, you can divide them into several categories. Uh, and that category is depending on the property and also the recycling code. So you have your first one is PET plastic, where the plastic that commonly used for your soft drinks and water bottles, which can be recycled into fabrics or new bottles. Then you have HDPE. So this is the plastic that you use for your detergents bottles, shampoo bottles. They are much stronger compared to your PET, and they are also recyclable. Then you have your PVC plastic. So this commonly used for pipes and also cables. And these are the plastic type of plastic which is difficult to recycle due to its toxic chlorine content. Then you have LDPE. So these are the plastic which commonly found in plastic bags and also your film wrap. So they are also not recyclable because of their low value. And then you have your polypropylene PP, which is used for bottle caps, straws, and containers. They can be recyclable, but widely they are not practicing it. And also they have polystyrene, which is your PS, which commonly used for food packing and also foams. They are lightweight, but they are not biodegradable. So these are the plastic classifications and the material which which is very concerning. That's the reason, like most of the state, they come up with no plastic concept. Like you bring your own plastic or you use biodegradable plastic, or for them to reduce the usage of plastic, they are charging the plastic. If you go to grocery, certain countries, certain states, there's no plastic, you have to purchase the plastic. Okay, that is one of the way the states are managing the waste reductions. Okay. So beside plastic, you also have other waste like paper, glass, rubbers, and many more. You can go through these two slides for it. Okay, so what we are going to see here is we are going to see solid waste management. So now you know what is solid waste, what is made up, so how you want to manage it. So managing solid waste is a process where it involves collection, transporting, processing, recycling, and disposing the waste materials. So the main reason why you are managing your solid waste because you want to protect human health and also you want to conserve the environment so that you can make sure that resources are effectively used rather than degrading the environment. Okay, so there are three components in waste management. The first is collections. So basically, you pick up the waste from the household or business or any streets, and then you transport it. So you move the waste to treatment or you move to any disposal sites using any transportations. And then finally, you dispose or you process where you handle the waste. Either you want to do recycling, you want to do incineration, landfilling, or composting. So in many developing countries, generally collection and disposal is the one that highlighted. While when it comes to recycling and reduction, it's something that haven't looked into it. So generally people see how to manage the waste that has been produced, but they never thought of converting the waste into something else or reducing the waste. Okay, so that's the reason they came up with modern waste management where they focuses on integrating these components where it minimizing the amount of waste that we generate, then recovering waste materials and find a way to recycle them and also dispose the waste safely and effectively as one management system to effectively minimize the waste generation at the source itself. Okay, so that's if you see household. So if you focus on industrial, so when it comes to industrial, there are many kind of stops where you can reduce your waste. For example, if a waste stream is there, there are several steps where you can reduce your waste. For example, you can minimize the pegging for products. So maybe instead of individual pegging, you can do like a group of pegging, or you can use a green consumer product like a biodegradable product instead of a product that cannot be recycled. Then you can reuse items like maybe glass bottles. Maybe you can reuse it once you have given to your customers, and maybe you have given to a shop vendors, and you can collect it back and sterilize it in a nice way, and you can reuse that, or you can recycle the items. Or if you have organic waste, you can convert it by using composting techniques, and you make it a new product on it where composting you can use to grow trees. So these are the way that are the steps that you can use to reduce your waste so that your landfill, when the number of waste that goes to landfill is reduced. Okay. Okay, next is municipal solid waste, which is your household waste. So this is actually a waste that has been produced in everyday life, and they are usually referred as trash or garbage. So they have these household items, food scraps, paper, packaging, plastic, anything that generally we are discarding at home. And the composition of waste it's varies from place to place because of our culture, our lifestyles, and also the economic status. So generally, like Malaysia, we are developing countries. We we discard the large portion of organic material in terms of food waste. So when we look into wealthier nations, they discard more on paper, packaging, plastics, which is their main solid waste. Okay. Okay. So as I mentioned previously, every day we as a consumer, we as a Malaysian citizen, we are generating 1.17 kg per person per day. So which end up in our landfill. And around 90% of this waste is still in the landfill, and only 10% of the generated total waste has been recycled. So that put a kind of pressure on our landfill system because of its nearing capacity. So it's like over like 40% of Malaysians, 175 disposal sites, which is still operating as dump sites, where we call as landfill actually, they are lack of environmental control because of our rapid waste production or generations. So that's the reason we have to focus on sustainable waste disposal. Okay, so when you talk about waste management system, it's not only should focuses on disposable, collecting your garbage. It has to be a modern system where it has to be integrated waste management. So integrated waste management, basically it will combines various strategy to handle waste more sustainable so that you can minimize the total amount of waste that end up in the landfill. So this whole system actually includes waste reduction from the source, recycling, composting, and proper disposal. So under integrated waste management, you have 5 key components. Your first one is waste reduction, where you prevent waste from being created. Second is collections, where you ensure effective and hygienic collection of system. Then you have composting, where you convert organic waste into fertilizer. And then you have recycling, where you convert materials like papers, glass, metals into new products. And also finally, you have disposal system, where you use landfill or incineration for the waste that you cannot be doing all this recycling, composting. Okay, so this is an integrated waste management, but however, it also depends on the local condition and also the resources that has been available at different locations. Okay, so from just now I was talking about landfill. So what is landfill? So landfill basically is it calls as a sanitary landfill. It's a modern engineered facility where you will isolate your waste from the environment until it becomes safe. Okay? Because when waste is discarded, they will start to decompose. Some, especially your organic waste, they will start to decompose and they will release some kind of gases, microorganisms, so which could be hazardous to the environment and also human health. That is the reason sanitary landfill is built, so that it will isolate the waste from the environment and also human being. So this is not like an open dump area. So your sanitary landfill, they are designed with liners, drainage system, and also monitoring wells. So when your waste starts to decompose, it will release a liquid called leachate. So this is a contaminated liquid which is formed when the rainwater filters through waste and it will dissolve harmful chemicals. Okay, so that's the reason you have to properly manage it. So if it does not properly manage, your leachate actually can pollute your soil and also your groundwater. Okay, so when you talk about Malaysia, we have modern landfills like where? Do you know Bukit Taga landfill? It is a modern landfill actually, where it manage the solid waste. Okay. So when I say landfill is an engineered structure, so this is how it is constructed. It's not about layering. It has 4 main layers, and that 4 main layers actually make sure that the waste does not harm the surrounding environments. So your first layer will start is called as the liner system. So basically, it's the base of the landfill. So and it is made up with compact clay, which is dense enough to prevent water from seeping through. So basically, the compact clay will make sure that there's no water to seeping through and goes to the soil nearby or groundwater. Then on top of that, they have installed this high density plastic liner, which give this extra protections. And that creates the barrier between the waste and also the natural soil and the groundwater. So that is the liner system. And then it follows by the drainage system. So as your waste decompose and the rainwater starts to percolate through it, the liquid called leachate, it will start to collect at the bottom, right? So to manage that, what they did, they have installed these pipes above the liner. Okay, that pipes, what it will do is it will collect the leachate and it will channel to the treatment plants. Okay, so when it collects the treatment plants and it will remove all these contaminants. So these are the liner system and also the drainage system. They are the two important layers, because if any one of these layers fail, basically your contaminated or your toxin contaminant will start to leak into your groundwater, which will cause a long-term environmental and also health problem. Okay, so the next layer is the gas collection system. So as your waste decompose without oxygen, it will produce gas, mainly methane gas and also carbon dioxide. Okay, so methane gas is highly flammable and is a greenhouse gas. So to prevent any explosions or air pollutions, so this modern landfill they install gas extraction wells. So what they do is this well will collect the methane gas, and this methane gas will be purified or it can be converted into another energy to produce electricity. Okay, so basically the byproduct of it, they convert to become a resource where it produces energy. And then the final layer is the trash itself. So, so this is the place where waste is placed and they are compact to reduce the waste. So when a new trash covers the thin layer of the soil to minimize the odors, pests, and also fires. So when a landfill, once you put all the, maybe for years you are dumping the waste, your solid waste in the landfill, once it has reached its capacity, it will cap with another layer of liner which covered with soil and vegetations. So once it covered, and then the site will be leave it for 30 years, and also it will be monitored as well, so that to check whether there's no leak of any dangerous gas to the environment. But however, one landfill, it has to be closed for 30 years, so that to ensure that all the contaminants, all the hazardous infections, everything is safe before the land is used for another purpose. So basically, if you have a landfill, they build it for years, you are dumping the waste, and once it's done, it is closed for 30 years. So imagine if you are producing so much of waste and you need so much of landfill, and then maybe around 50 years, you can't be doing anything with that land. So that's the reason why landfills, you have to manage your waste, because like Malaysia, we don't have that much of lands except for Sabah Sarawak. But when it comes to like urban cities like KLs, so they are producing waste, but where it's going to be dumped. Okay, and how you're going to manage that. Okay, so if you see the diagram, this is how a landfill, a complex structure of modern sanitary landfills. So at bottom, you can see the layers that I have mentioned. You have clay, plastic, liner, and sand, which prevents the leachates from contaminating the groundwater. Then you have the leachate pipes, which collects the leachates, the liquid waste, and send for the treatment system so that it can dispose safely. And then you have the production of methane gas, where you have wells where it will extract the methane gas and it will store in a tank for energy productions. Okay. And you do have this monitoring wells. So the monitoring wells is to detect in case there's a leak of methane or any contaminated water, so that if it has been detected, then any kind of prevention or corrective action can be taken. So basically, this is how a state of art of a sanitary landfill. Okay. So what is the disadvantage of landfills now? Anyone? Okay, so even you have this much of layers system, you have pipe that collecting the leachate, you have wells that collecting the methane gas, still there is a drawback in your landfills. So because landfills, it's a liner. I mean, it have a liner layers. So what happens if the liner get crack or tears? Because it's there for years, how to monitor the liners, whether there's any crack happens, any puncture happens or not. So that's one. And then you have this leachate collection system, which is required to be constantly do maintenance. But in reality, how frequent they are doing the maintenance for it. So over time, the toxic fluids, it may escape and it may contaminate your groundwater and also soil. So another issue that you have is your land. You need a huge land for landfill. Your landfill is not that you open a small land and you get all this. If they want to do a landfill, of course you need a huge land, and it has to be away from cities, coast areas. So where you want to find a land for that? Okay, so these are some of the drawback of your landfills. But another advantage of landfill is your landfill actually can be source of renewable energy. So if you manage it in a proper way. So because in Malaysia, 40 to 50% is organic materials. So which is can be decomposed in an oxygen-free environment, and the bacteria produced in your landfill gas, which is about 50% of methane. So the methane gas, you can convert it, you can collect it, you can process it, and you can convert into natural gas. And this natural gas also you can generate to produce electricity, or you can produce heat, or you can eventually produce, biogas. You can use fuel for vehicles. Okay, so that is another advantages of it. Okay, so beside landfill, another way to treat your waste is incineration. So incineration is basically a technique where you burn the garbage or the solid waste in a very high temperature in a controlled facility. So this actually will reduce the volume of waste by 90%, where you can save the landfill space. Okay. However, when doing incineration procedure, you will produce ash and also gases that actually must be treated so that you can avoid the release of your harmful chemicals to the environments. So that's the reason you have devices like scrubbers and filters, where once it burns, it will filter or cleanse the gas, or it will neutralize the acid, any chemicals, and also it will remove the particulates before it is released to the environment. And also, besides that, when combustion happens at a very high temperature, it produces heat. So this heat actually you can use to produce steam or electricity, which is known as waste to energy technology. Okay. However, the disadvantage of your incineration is it is high cost, it produces toxic ash, and it has a potential of causing air pollution if it's not properly controlled. So basically, this is the whole process of your installations. So your installation will start with your waste that comes in, then it goes inside the facility where there is a combustion happens. So when the combustion happens, your solid waste is burned in a very high temperature. So when it high temperature, it will starts to heat the water, and the water will become steam under the boiler, and it will helps to generate the electricity. So, and then when it comes to your toxic gases, there is a pollution control technology where the toxic gas that has been produced will be mitigated using scrubbers, and also the airborne particulates matter will be filtered under the airbag air and before releasing the gas or the air into the environments. So the remaining that you have, which is the ashes, which comes from the combustion, will be removed and it goes to disposal at the landfill. So this is the process of your incineration. Okay. Okay. So we have covered what is landfill. So when solid waste is produced, how it is discarded at the landfill and how it is discarded as an incineration. So now how you want to reduce your solid waste, which is using the 3 R's. So mainly the 3 R's is to reduce your waste. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce means you consume less and living a simpler lifestyle. It means you avoid unnecessary packing, buying durable goods, or you say no to a single use plastics. And then reuse. Reuse, instead of throwing the item away, you find a new use for that. Like you donate the clothes, you repurpose your containers. So that is reuse. And then recycle. Recycle means basically you separate like your paper, metal, gas, plastic, so that you can reprocess them into a new products. So even everyone apply these 3 R's, if everyone applies the 3 R's, we can actually reduce the amount of waste that go into your landfill or incinerations. So that's the reason why we are having environmental biotech. So I hope everyone will use this 3 R concept and starts to reduce the waste that you are producing. Okay. Okay. So this 3 R concept is not only applicable for individual or household, it also can be applicable for industrial. Because even though like we are the waste that produce in household, they are less hazardous when you compare to industrial waste that is produced. So the effective way how industrial can manage their waste is they can redesign manufacturing processes to use less material and energy, or they can develop a product which is easily repair, reuse, or remanufacture or recycle, and they can eliminate the reduce of unnecessary packing. They also actually can create incentives such as pay as you throw system, where you charge people for waste by giving free pickup for recyclable. So this will help actually to reduce solid waste. Okay, and eventually will reduce the pollution at the source itself, making it to be more environmental friendly. Okay, so as you see, there is advantages in recycling, but there is also disadvantages in recycling. So if you see recycling, usually it will save your raw material, it will reduce your energy use, it will cut the pollutions. But however, recycling is a challenging process because it can be expensive and it's required people to segregate or sort the waste, and not all the materials it's recyclable. Example, if you have a contaminated food package or you have a mixed plastic, so it is technically difficult and it is often uneconomical to recycle it. Okay. Okay, next we will focus on industrial solid waste. Is everyone awake? Hello? Is everyone awake? Yes, yes, halfly trying to be. Thank you to be honest. Okay, 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 it's okay. I have another 10 more slides. So just bear with me. Okay, so when you talk about industrial solid waste, it comes from mainly from agriculture, factories, mining, and constructions. So your industrial materials like metal, scrap, sludge, chemicals, and any defect products. So these are the major waste, solid waste when it comes to industrial. So like you have municipal waste management, industrial waste also has a lot of methods, but however, they need stricter treatment because the waste that they are producing is more toxic compared to the waste that produced in households. So some industrial, they have industrial symbiosis where your waste from one factory become a resources for another. For example, if you're using like fly ash from powder plants in a cement productions. So that's how they reduce the waste productions. Okay. And then you have your hazard waste. Okay. So basically your hazard waste is defined as waste that is dangerous and potentially harmful to human health and the environment. So it includes material like toxic, corrosive, flammable, and reactive. So example, you have like your solvent, your heavy metals, your pesticide, your medical waste. So industrial like chemical manufacturing or metal manufacturing and rubber goods, they are the major source of hazardous waste. So even a small quantity of this hazardous waste actually can cause a serious harm. Example, like you have your mercury, cyanide, which a minor volume of it can cause fatals. So if we talk about hazardous waste, it does not only produced by industrial or hospitals. Even household actually has hazardous waste. Okay. These general waste, okay, if you see the list that I have listed down, these are the some of the waste, hazardous waste that you can find at home actually. Okay. A common hazardous waste that you have like cleaning agent, insecticide, paint, solvent, batteries. So these are hazardous waste that we are having at home, which generally it will end up in municipal solid waste or your garbage or your trash. That is actually an improper disposal. Okay. So because when you dispose it, it will go to the landfill and it will start to contaminate the water and also the soil. Okay, so these are the ways in the slide that you can see. These are the ways that in the household that has to be disposed at the designated collection center or hazardous waste days. Okay. Okay, if you see hazardous waste can be divided into three groups, or you classify into three groups. You have organic compounds like your dioxin, pesticides, where they persist in the environment and they will accumulate, which is known as bioaccumulate. Then you have your heavy metals, example, your mercury, your arsenic. These are the toxic. Even in a small amount, they can damage your nervous system. And then you have this radioactive waste. Generally, it is produced by the nuclear power plants or any medical users. And these are the waste that required long-term isolations. These are the hazardous waste that does not break down easily and they can remain dangerous for decades. That's the reason why they are classified as hazardous waste, and you cannot be discarded as your normal municipal solid waste. Okay, so when you talk about organic compound, they are hazardous because their toxicity persists over the time, because they are resist for decomposition. Unlike your organic material, your food scraps which decompose over the time, organic compound from hazardous waste, they does not decompose. They don't want to decompose. So that's the reason they stay hazardous for a long time in the soil and also in the water. So these are the compound that can enter into the food chain, and they will start to accumulate in the fatty tissue. And they can, as times goes on, they can cause chronic diseases. So many are mutagens and carcinogens, where they can damage the DNA and also cause cancer. So example, like just now I say, like you have your dioxin, your pesticides. Okay. So then you have your heavy metals. Heavy metals, these are generally used widely in industrial. They will enter the environment if it is not properly disposed, like including your e-waste, like your batteries, electronic waste. So once this heavy metals hazardous waste in the soil or water, they also will start to bioaccumulate, which means bioaccumulation means they will build up in a living organism, and they will move up from the food chain. So from one organism to another organism. That is the reason why your e-waste and also your industrial effluents, you must handle in a strict protocol. Okay. Okay. Next is e-waste. So now is era of digital. So everyone like having phone, laptop, tab, everything is digital. Your phone, your televisions, your computers, your printers. So everyone is having electronic device. And when you're not using the electronic device and you want to discard it, it becomes an e-waste. So how you are going to discard your e-waste? How many of you are still keeping your phones, your old phones that you're not using? Okay. Okay, Jis, you're keeping still some more? Even when still keeping the rest? How you discard your old phones? Brick like Nokia. Okay. Okay. Stephanie, trading. Good. Only phone cover. Okay. Phone cover is like e-waste, Abi. How many phones you are having local? Why I will open it and operate it? Okay. Then trading. Thingy, correct. Okay, it's a good one. Still functioning. Then why you change to new phone, Denuga? It means that you're not reducing the waste. Okay. Do not have Wi-Fi and data in that. Just curious on what is inside. Okay. So, okay. Although like they contains like, okay, if you see your e-waste, mostly they will have these valuable metals like gold and copper. Of course, not a lot, but they have this lining of golds and coppers. But still, they are considered as toxic elements. So if you dump it in landfills, this toxic can leach into your soil and also water. So that's the reason you need a proper disposal or a proper recycling. So one way, like Stephanie 3D, is a good way where you reduce your waste and also you reduce your pollutions. Okay? Or if you go to any like shopping malls, they will have a dedicated bin for e-waste. So you can discard your e-waste there. Rather than don't ever discard your e-waste at your home normal bin where it will end up in landfill. Don't ever do that. It will become hazardous waste. Okay? Okay. Next is your integrated management for your hazardous waste. So when it comes to hazardous waste, it has hierarchy of priority. So you have your first, second, and last priority. So your first priority is about waste preventions, where you prevent the waste. So you use the less harmful product instead of using the hazardous materials. So that's the way where you prevent your waste. Your second one is you will do conversion of your hazardous waste to less harmful substance like reuse, repair, recycle, compost, or you buy reusable or recyclable waste. And the final one is your waste management, where you there's no choice. You already got, no matter you reduce, you repair, you recycle, you still end up in waste. Then you manage the waste. You treat the waste you treat the waste where it reduces the toxicity. Then you do incineration and the burnt ash you dispose in a landfills. So that's how integrated waste management. Basically, first you reduce the waste, second you convert the waste, and the third one you manage the waste. Okay, so when you have hazardous waste, can you detoxify your hazardous waste? Because hazardous waste has toxin. Can I detoxify it? You have several methods. First, bioremediations. So bioremediation is a technique where you use bacteria or you use enzyme where you break down the toxin and becomes a harmless compound. That is bioremediations. Then you have phytoremediation. Phytoremediation where you use plant to absorb your contaminant or you to filter your contaminant from soil or water. And finally, you have another process which is called as incineration. So basically, you burn your waste and you destroy your hazardous chemicals. And you basically, when you destroy your hazardous chemicals through combustion, you will produce carbon dioxide and also waste and also water. Sorry. So each of these methods, your bioremediation, phytoremediation, and also your incineration, it has its own pros and cons, but they help to reduce long-term environmental risk. So that's so when you have hazardous waste, you can not only you can manage it, you can also try to detoxify it to manage its long-term environmental risk. Okay, so there's another three disposal methods for your hazardous waste, where you have your secure landfill, you have your surface impoundment, and you also have your deep well injections. Okay, so secure landfill means you have an engineered site with multiple layers of liners and also leachate system. Then you have your surface impoundment where you have your ponds or lagoons which temporarily store the liquid waste. And then you have your deep well injection where you inject your liquid waste deep underground into the rock formation. Basically, you are isolating your hazardous waste. So these are the method does not neutralize or detoxify your waste, but it will prevent the hazardous waste from interacting with the environment. So when you talk about secure landfills, they are actually stricter compared to your normal sanitary landfills. The one that I mentioned previously, That is your normal sanitary landfills. Your secure landfill, it has more several liners and leachate removal design. I mean, leachate removal system. So they have like, um, and this secure landfill can be only operated by trained persons, and that site will be generally it will be monitored continuously, and this secure landfill it's only suitable for hazardous solid or sludge that cannot be treated by chemicals. Okay. Then you have the surface impoundment. So surface impoundment, basically you have a shallow depression lining with a plastic enclave where the liquid hazard waste is stored temporarily. So after evaporation happens, the remaining solid are removed and they are placed in a secure landfills. So however, when you see surface impoundment, there is a risk because if the liner get cracks, the vein, if there's any rain happens, it may overflow your liquid waste to your contaminate overflow your liquid waste to the soil, and it will might end up in a contaminated groundwater. So that's the reason generally this method is it's strictly regulated because the risk of contaminating the groundwater is higher. Then you have your deep well injection. So deep well injection, basically what they will do is they will drill a deep well below the water table and they pump the liquid, the hazardous liquid waste inside the rock, porous rock area. So you can see the image, there is a deep well has been drilled and the hazardous waste, which is the red in color, it's into the porous rock layers. So this idea basically it will isolate the waste from the groundwater or contact with human. However, if you see this, if in this method, since it's a well, it have chances to get corrode over the time. And once it get corrode, the waste might migrate to other layers, like you have this porous rock, it can travel to impervious soils and many other layers. Okay, and also when you do like deep well, right, to inside the earth, it also may induce some small earthquake in some regions. So that's the reason it should only be used when no other options. Like you use first option will be your secure landfill, and then is your surface impoundment. And when you don't have these two options, then you go for your deep well injections. Okay. So, so overall, when it comes to waste management hierarchy, it's a rank options based on environmental preference. So if you see, the most preferred option is preventions, where you avoid creating waste in the first place. And then next, you can go with reuse and recycling, where you conserve your resources. And then you go for your energy recovery, like your incinerations, where you generate power. And then finally, you go for your disposal, which is the least favored option, where you have your landfill or incinerations without energy recovery, which will should be your last options. So this hierarchy guides modern waste policy worldwide. Okay, so then the technology that's contribute in waste management. So modern technology is transforming the waste management. So you have RFID, where the tag will be attached to the bin to track the collections and calculate the waste that has generated in each household. You also have GPS devices where it helps to monitor the movement of your garbage trucks so that they can do proper planning, route planning, and also improve efficiency. And also you have this rare vision camera system where it allows real-time monitoring of collection, improving safety and transparency. So this smart waste system, it supports to have a better recycling rate and also accountability. So with that, I'm done with today's class. Any questions?